The episode starts in a forest where Momo gets trapped and left hanging from a tree. Aang, Katara, and Sokka notice he's missing and go to find him. Aang frees Momo and sees other animals caught in similar traps. Sokka uses his boomerang to free them all at once and says the traps belong to the Fire Nation. He suggests they walk instead of flying on Appa to stay hidden. Katara wants Aang to lead since he's the Avatar, but Sokka says Aang is just a silly kid, and Aang agrees. Katara jokes that Sokka is bossy because he has never kissed a girl, teasing him about their grandma. As they walk, Aang and Katara get tired and tease Sokka, and suddenly, they stumble into a Fire Nation camp. They try to run, but soldiers trap them, and Sokka pretends they're dangerous, but a soldier laughs, until he suddenly falls. A young man appears in the trees and takes out more soldiers with hook swords. Other kids, including a small boy and an archer, help defeat the Fire Nation soldiers. Aang and Katara join the fight with Bending, but Jet, the young leader, takes out every soldier before Sokka can. After the fight, Jet introduces his team: Sneers, Longshot, Smellerby, the Duke, and Pipsqueak. Aang laughs at Pipsqueak's name, thinking it belongs to the small boy, but the huge Pipsqueak says it's really his. He playfully smacks Aang on the back, knocking him over as everyone laughs. Katara quickly starts liking Jet and keeps praising him, even while unknowingly making fun of Sokka's opinions. Meanwhile, the Duke and Pipsqueak search the empty Fire Nation camp and find jelly candy and barrels of blasting jelly, and Jet tells them to keep the candy and explosives apart. When the freedom fighters head to their hideout, Aang wants to join, and Katara eagerly agrees for all of them. At first, the place seems empty, but Jet gives Sokka a rope hidden in the trees. Sokka pulls it and gets lifted up. Aang airbends up, and Jet carries Katara, making her blush. At the treetop hideout, Jet explains that the Fire Nation took over the Earth Kingdom town of Gaipan years ago, and his group has been fighting back ever since. Katara praises Jet again, annoying Sokka, and Jet talks about the group's past. Everyone has lost family. Jet's parents were killed when he was 8, which Katara relates to since she also lost her mom to the Fire Nation. That night, Jet gives a speech to celebrate their win against the Fire Nation, and later, he thanks Aang and Katara, praising their bending. Katara blushes again and says Aang is the Avatar, and Jet is excited and asks them to help with future missions. Sokka says they plan to leave, but Jet invites him on a mission the next morning. Sokka agrees. The next morning, Sokka joins Jet to watch a path from the trees, and using a machete trick, Sokka spots someone coming. It's an old Fire Nation man. Sokka says the man seems harmless, but Jet and the others attack and knock him down. Sokka tries to stop them, saying the man is innocent, but Jet doesn't care and says all Fire Nation people are enemies. Sokka is clearly upset but follows them, disturbed by what he saw. After the mission, Sokka sits alone, thinking, while Aang plays with the Duke. Katara makes a leaf hat for Jet, but Sokka interrupts, saying it's time to leave. When Aang and Katara question him, Sokka tells them Jet attacked an old man. Katara wants Jet's side of the story, and Jet claims the man was a Fire Nation assassin, showing a knife with poison as proof. Aang and Katara believe him, but Sokka doubts it, saying he never saw the knife, and frustrated, Sokka walks away to get ready to leave. Once he has gone, Jet tells Aang and Katara that the Fire Nation plans to burn down the forest and asks for their help to fill a reservoir with water. Believing him, Katara tells Sokka they're staying to help Jet, and she accuses Sokka of being jealous and ignores his warnings. That night, Sokka secretly follows Jet and his top fighters, and he sees them loading barrels of blasting jelly and overhears their plan: blow up a dam to flood a village where Fire Nation soldiers are staying. The Duke is worried about the innocent Earth Kingdom people in the village, but Jet says their sacrifice is worth it. Sokka tries to leave and warn the others, but Smellerby and Pipsqueak catch him. At dawn, Jet confronts Sokka and tries to convince him that flooding the village is necessary. Sokka refuses to agree, so Jet orders the others to take Sokka deep into the forest so he can't stop the plan. Jet brings Aang and Katara to a shallow river connected to the reservoir, and still unaware of Jet's real plan, Katara apologizes for Sokka's behavior. Jet lies, saying Sokka already apologized and is out scouting with Smellerby and Pipsqueak. Aang and Katara are surprised, but Jet reassures them that Sokka just needed to cool off. Suddenly, a steam geyser blasts under Aang, shooting him into the air. As he lands, Jet says they've found the right spot, and he tells them to bend water from the underground vents into the reservoir. Katara isn't sure she can bend water she can't see, but with Jet's encouragement, she and Aang manage to release a geyser, and Jet then leaves, saying he'll meet them at the reservoir. Meanwhile, Sokka is being taken through the forest with his hands tied. He tries to reason with Smellerbee and Pipsqueak, warning them innocent people will be hurt, but they stay loyal to Jet. Spotting some old Fire Nation traps, Sokka tricks them into walking into them, trapping both in cages. He frees himself and runs off to stop Jet before it's too late. Aang and Katara reach a cliff and see the freedom fighters placing blasting jelly on the dam, and Aang realizes Jet plans to flood the village. He tries to stop it, but Jet suddenly appears and hooks Aang's glider with his swords. Jet admits the truth, saying the Fire Nation must be stopped no matter what. He reminds Katara that they both lost loved ones and tries to convince her it's worth it. Katara is shocked, and when Jet mentions Sokka, she demands to know where he is. Jet gently touches her face, but Katara strikes him with waterbending, slamming him down. Aang tries to get his glider, but Jet grabs it and prepares to fight. They battle in the trees. Jet attacks with his hook swords, and Aang dodges using airbending but struggles to fight back. Aang eventually blasts Jet down, and both rush for the glider, and Jet kicks Aang out of the air, sending him crashing into a tree. As Jet grabs the glider, Katara returns, blasting him with water and freezing him to a tree. Then a bird call sounds. Jet's signal to attack, and Jet sends the signal back, revealing he stalled them just long enough. Aang tries to fly, but his glider is too damaged, and they watch helplessly. From a distance, Longshot fires a flaming arrow, blowing up the dam, and the water floods the village. Katara angrily calls Jet a traitor, but Jet says it was worth it to stop the Fire Nation, and suddenly, Sokka arrives on Appa with Momo. Jet is shocked when Sokka reveals he warned the villagers in time and they evacuated. The old man Jet attacked had helped convince them. Jet calls Sokka a fool, but Sokka says saving lives was the real victory. Jet accuses him of betrayal, but Sokka says Jet betrayed his own cause by endangering innocents. Katara turns her back on Jet, and the group leaves him frozen to the tree. As they fly off on Appa, Aang and Katara apologize to Sokka for not believing him, and Sokka reminds them that they should always trust their instincts. Aang points out they're flying in the wrong direction, and Sokka admits, sometimes instincts are wrong, and the episode ends. The episode starts with Katara and Sokka arguing about how to set up camp, and Aang stops the fight and proudly says he's good at solving problems as the Avatar. They then arrive at the Great Divide, the world's largest canyon. Katara is amazed, but Sokka finds it boring and wants to fly over it on Appa. Before they can leave, a man stops them and says they need a guide to cross safely. He says he's saving a spot for his tribe, the Ganjin, and soon, another tribe, the Zhang, shows up. The man says their tribes have been enemies for 100 years. The Ganjin look clean and polite, while the Zhang look messy and rough. The earthbending canyon guide arrives, and both tribes start arguing about who should go first. The Zhangs say some of their people are sick, while the Ganjins say their elderly are tired, and as they argue, Katara asks if Aang is ready to act as a peacemaker. Aang isn't sure, but Katara tells the tribes he's the Avatar, and Aang suggests they cross the canyon together. The tribes refuse and keep arguing, so Aang yells that Appa will carry the sick and elderly while everyone else walks together, and both tribes agree. The canyon guide warns everyone not to bring food, as it attracts dangerous creatures, and the tribes, the gang, and the guide go down into the canyon. To stop Fire Nation soldiers from following, the guide breaks a rock shelf, and suddenly, a canyon crawler attacks. Aang and his friends fight it off, but the guide gets injured and can't earthbend anymore. Since no one else can earthbend, they are stuck in the canyon. The tribes start arguing again and blame each other for the attack. Aang angrily tells them to split up and travel separately. He then asks Katara to go with the Ganjins and Sokka with the Zhangs to find out why the tribes hate each other. That night, both tribes talk about using tarps. The Zhangs don't see the need since it's the dry season, but the Ganjins still put them up, saying it's better to be safe. These views make Katara and Sokka feel closer to the groups they're with. Around the same time, both tribes admit they brought food into the canyon. even though the guide told them not to. They each say they did it because they thought the other tribe would bring food too. Then, both tribes tell Katara and Sokka their own version of why they've been enemies. The Gon Jinns tell Katara that their ancestor, Jin Wei, was an earthbender who carried a sacred crystal orb in a redemption ritual. Near the western gate, he was attacked by a Zhang named Wei Jin, who stole the orb out of greed. The Zhangs tell Sokka a different story. They say their ancestor, Wei Jin, found Jin Wei unconscious and tried to help. Jin Wei asked him to take the orb to his tribe, which he did, but the Gon Jinns arrested him and jailed him for 20 years, wrongly calling him a thief. Both tribes believe they were wronged and refuse to forgive. That night, Aang stays with Momo and the injured guide. Aang says the tribes will never get along and that escaping the canyon is the real problem. The guide suggests that maybe both problems are connected, and the next day, the tribes meet again at the end of the canyon. When Aang asks if they might work together, Katara and Sokka start arguing, each defending the tribe they spent the night with. The tribes also start arguing again, and Aang tries to calm them by saying, "Harsh words won't solve problems, action will." But the tribe leaders misunderstand and prepare to fight to the death, and right before they strike, Aang uses airbending to stop them and reveals that both tribes secretly brought food. He scolds them for ignoring the guide's warning, calling them awful people. Then he gets distracted by an egg custard tart because he hasn't eaten all day, and suddenly, a group of canyon crawlers, drawn by the food charge toward them. After a brief fight, Aang realizes the crawlers want the food, not the people, and he tells the tribes to work together. They throw sacks over the crawlers' heads and ride them up the canyon wall, using food to guide them to safety. Once everyone is safely out of the canyon, the two tribes praise each other for how they handled the canyon crawlers. They say they're not so different after all, but still refuse to let go of their grudge and prepare to fight again. Hearing the names Jin Wei and Wei Jin, Aang suddenly speaks up, saying he knew them personally 100 years ago. He explains that the story has been misunderstood. Jin Wei and Wei Jin weren't enemies. They were 8-year-old twin brothers who played a game called Redemption. The sacred orb was just a ball, and the gates were the goals, and during the game, Jin Wei tripped and dropped the ball. Wei Jin picked it up and kept running but stepped out of bounds and got a 2-minute penalty, not 20 years in jail. Aang says that while Wei Jin was messy and Jin Wei was strict, they respected each other and played together peacefully. Realizing their feud was based on a misunderstanding, the two tribes make peace and continue their journey to Ba Sing Se together as one group. The canyon guide, fed up with the experience, decides to stop working as a tour guide. As they leave, Sokka remarks how lucky it was that Aang knew the twins. To Katara and Sokka's surprise, Aang admits he made the whole story up. Still hungry, he asks where the egg custard tart went as they head to Appa to continue their journey.